Hi, my name is Rachel. Welcome to my channel, Learning with Boys. Today I want to talk about high school electives. Okay, when we think about electives, I really want you to think about what your child is interested in. What do they want to pursue? And sometimes just by doing an elective or doing a class on that might help them realize, maybe I'm not too interested in that. Or it might encourage them to pursue the next level. So as you're thinking about electives and you're not sure if that's really what they're interested in, but they're like, I really want to do this, maybe go ahead and let them do that, because it might either spark an interest or it might be just a realization of, no, this is not for me, which is good. You want to narrow things down, which may lead to what they will do after they graduate. So I'm going to give you some ideas just of what we have used, and then some extras that would be some ideas that you could do, like a list of ideas for electives. Now, we usually do logic, and the reason we do logic is because the first year I had a ninth grader. The curriculum I chose, that was one of the half credits, and that was my first year homeschooling a high schooler, but I'm so glad I did it. It really was informative and really gives them a lot to think about and prepare them for being a little bit discerning. So I suggest logic. This is the book that we use. This is actually the teacher's guide, but it's The Art of Argument, and it is by the Classical Academic Press. Now, the curriculum, Hard to Decode It, does not suggest the DVDs, but my son at that time was very visual, and they do have DVDs, so that's probably what we'll do with my ninth grader this year. He just started into this book, so about the first week and a half or two, they just read before the videos start. But I really suggest possibly looking, even if it's just a semester of logic. There are lots of other curriculums out there. This is just the one that we found, and we do like it, so we're going to stay with it. Another thing I encourage my boys to do is Bible, whether it be a half a credit or a full credit each year. Just depends on what curriculum they do, or if they do it on their own. Maybe they're just reading their Bible and studying verses. I would just do that a half a credit. Or my son this year, he's really almost spending an hour in a day on that subject, so I'm going to go ahead and give him a credit for this freshman year. Another one that my second son did was photography, and that's a pretty popular one, but I want to give you a thought on that. That when I called my umbrella, which our state requires that we are under an umbrella, to talk about whether to put that under fine arts or to count it as an elective, because you can do fine arts, and I knew my son wasn't overly interested in a lot of other fine arts things. So I thought, if I could just put that under fine arts, that would be his fine arts credit. But this is what he mentioned to me, and I thought it was helpful, is to decide if that is something he or she will pursue, to go ahead and make it a separate elective. So if they are college bound, the colleges will see that they pursued that specific subject, because under fine arts, they may not see it at first glance. So I thought that was interesting. So I will tell you, for photography, I actually put it under fine arts for the first time, but then he did an advanced photography for an elective, because he's on his second DSLR camera. By the time he did an advanced, he ended up doing some YouTube videos to talk about photography and how to take pictures and edit and that kind of thing. So he was really at that level. So I just wanted to give you that thought of deciding if you put a specific elective under one of the other requirements or under an elective. So I thought that was helpful. Okay, another option would be computer. Something with a computer. What should it be for the computer? There's lots of options for the computer. It could be computer programming. It could be intro to computer. It can be computer technology. It could be some type of IT class. Depends. I know some kids who are very techie, and I actually had one that was more into the programming, and he did take an elective, a full credit for computer programming. But my other son, he did like an intro to computer, more to make sure about all the files and where everything goes and how the computer runs. But then he ended up it may have been another year later, he ended up doing enough research, between research and paying for himself for his own parts, built his own computer. Because of his photography and videoing, he wanted enough storage or power. So that is what he put his passion in. Well, we counted that as a computer tech elective. So just a thought of taking what they're working on. You might have a son that is very into mechanics. He is always helping with the vehicle or I know my husband teaches our boys a lot about changing brakes, the oil, and all kinds of things that I don't know much about. But really, I look back and think I probably could have put at least a half a credit, or not credit, into the last two boys of all that they have done on the vehicles with their daddy. But you could count that, especially if they're able to retell things back to you. You may just let the dad who's teaching them, or if it's the mom, give them an oral test or have them present something to you to count it as a credit, if that is what would work for your family. Okay, another option for sure would be counting work, like if they work outside the home. And you would have, like, for me, I actually called HSLDA, which is Homeschool Law Defense Association, to confirm that I could do this in my state. He acted like, yes, that was no problem to count that as a credit. My son at the time was actually working for somebody that did carpentry work, and I just counted it as a full carpentry credit. Now, I probably could have went even further with that, because he was at the point where he was making and building his own things. So it really depends. I could have done a carpentry 2 maybe, I don't know. But I just did it carpentry 1 that year. He had enough credits, he had enough electives for graduation, so I wasn't overly worried about it. Now my second one, I could do the same for him, and I could do that because he's working this semester, that I may be able to do a half a credit for a work. And I think you would just have to decide on how you wanted to label whatever their job is, and maybe they could even help you with that. Talking about the mechanics, I may have my third son, I might use that as one of his electives, just because he is a little bit interested in that for sure, and I think he would enjoy making that more of a class and helping his dad. He's very interested in getting his permit and his license, and I think that would sort of put a little drive in him to pursue that as an elective. Okay, another one that I did mention was videography. That could be used. You could have speech and debate. I have a friend and her boys were in that, speech and debate, and that would definitely be an elective. That could probably even go a little bit further and be counted towards some other credits. Also, of course, we know there's home economics. If you want to do that, I think of my sister. She homeschooled and she loved to cook, well, more bake, and she would make these like extraordinary breads, like very decorative, the twisted kind, and all that kind of stuff. She really could have done a credit for like culinary arts, and she still loves to cook and come up with all kinds of things. So, and that might be an option there. I know there's a lot of people that do like homesteading now. Might be 4-H that they're involved in. I mean, you want to put that down that they are involved in 4-H, but maybe you could take the work that they're doing for 4-H. Maybe you could turn that into an elective, especially when they're caring for an animal, and they could be specific about that and maybe even write a paper about it. Also, a couple other ideas would be maybe something, I know for us, personal finance is a requirement, but maybe they want to go into take an entrepreneurship type course that could be as an elective. Maybe they just want to take accounting. Maybe they want to be a writer and they want to write a book. You could put that under journalism. There's lots of things that you can turn their interest into elective. You just want to make sure you collect the work collect the hours. Now, when my son did that computer, I counted it as a half a credit, but he probably did it in a couple months because he was just consumed by it. But the hours he put into it was definitely, between the research and figuring out what he wanted to do, I would definitely say that it was a half a credit's worth, and the information and being able to explain it to somebody, he actually even did a YouTube video on it later, was worth a half a credit, even though it didn't take the whole time. So if you just sort of think about, wow, they spend this much time, they've spent, I mean, it could just be they spend 1 day a week on that particular thing that they're interested in. But if you think about how many hours that is, I mean, if it's like 5 or 6 hours, that's a week's worth of time. And for school, I mean, they say, I think it's 120 to 180 is a credit. So 60 to 90 would be a half a credit. So that's something to think about. I hope this video was helpful to somebody in just giving you some thoughts on how electives work for high school, that they don't have to be a particular curriculum. They don't have to be set rules, but you do want them to walk away understanding it, the subject, being able to explain it to somebody else, and just benefit from it. So if you have any questions, or maybe you have some more elective ideas, I know there are a ton out there, please share below. We'd love to hear. Maybe it would even help me. So I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.